Hi guys, welcome to Get Curried. This is the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and it's a promise to get world cuisine into your kitchen. Well, today I'm doing one of my most favorite kebabs. It's a Galouti Kebab. Smooth, silken and absolutely beautiful. Here we go. Well, Galouti Kebab for the uninitiated is a very silken smooth kebab which is very flavorful. Now for that I have this whole storyboard of spices here. I have some bay leaf which I'm going to crush into a very fine powder. I have some cinnamon. So I'm going to break this cinnamon and put it here. I have these beautiful black cardamoms. I'm just taking the seeds, I'm not taking the skin. I'm putting in these dried green chilies. I'm putting in a little bit of nutmeg. In goes some mace, peppercorns, some poppy seeds, cloves, green cardamom, dried onions, some garlic, ginger. Well, I'm just roughly chopping the ginger so that it runs into a nice smooth paste. This goes in the grinder. I'm adding in some chili powder. And here if you see, there's this beautiful raw papaya, very cute looking, but this is actually a tenderizer. It's a meat tenderizer. So I'm taking like a little bit of this. I'm using it with the skin because in the skin lies an enzyme called papain, and that is actually a tenderizer. So I'm just cutting this roughly. So here this goes. So I have this papaya, which now goes into the grinder along with all the spices. Here we go. I'm running this into a very smooth and fine paste. So here we go. Well, now if you see, this mixture actually requires some water, but we are not going to add the water. What I'm going to do instead is add in a little bit of coriander. So that is actually going to work as the moisture. Now after the coriander, I'm just breaking in an egg. Well, this is the real trick of the recipe because this is going to actually make the paste nice, fine and smooth. So now let's begin. So let's check the spice. So here we have this smooth paste that we've actually created for Galouti. So now here that you see is this spice mix which is ready, nice and smooth. Now let's start prepping the meat. So I have this minced meat here, which is actually very coarse. Now there's a trick to this. Now you can either get it finely ground from the guy who supplied this to you, or the second option is to use a mixie jar and actually grind this in your own kitchen. So I'll show you that trick here. So here I have this jar, which goes right here, and I'm going to add in a little at a time to make sure I run this into a smooth and fine paste. So here goes in a little. So now that this mince is almost done, what I'm doing is taking some salt and massaging a little into the mince meat. So here goes in some salt so that it releases whatever water is still retained in the meat. So I'm going to add in this masala. Now is the time to start massaging this into the meat. You have to make sure this masala is evenly mixed into the meat. Otherwise you'll have pockets of this masala and you'll have some meat which is really bland and you don't want to upset people like that. So it's very important. You may take in some more time to do this, but it's very important to massage it evenly. So here we go. Now to make sure that the residual water is also absorbed in these kebabs, what I'm going to add in is a spoonful of some roasted gram flour and mix it evenly well. So now this has taken me somewhere around 8 to 10 minutes to massage this meat completely with the masalas. Now is the time to start frying. But before that, allow me a moment to just wash my hands. I'm taking like scoopfuls of this mixture, like so that they nicely form a patty-like shape. And here, I'm just placing it on the plate. Similarly, I'm going to make a few more. So with this quantity of the mixture, you can actually make 15 kebabs of this size. For now, we need refrigeration for 10 minutes. So let me do that and then we do the frying. So now that these kebabs have been refrigerated, let's start pan frying them. So I'm taking some oil and heating this on medium flame. So now like a minute on each side and you see these kebabs are almost done. So I'm just moving them onto this platter. So now that these kebabs are ready, it's time to serve. For serving, I have this beautiful lemon here, and here goes the lemon juice on this. Very little. You can keep the remaining on the platter itself. Next, I'm putting in some onion rings right here. And finally, a bunch of some fresh mint. So I'm just making sure I cut the stems off, and here goes in this beautiful bunch of mint. Well, did I mention the Galouti Kebabs were originally made for an aging toothless Nawab? Well, you don't have to lose your teeth for this. Try it at home, share the love with everyone in India. Hello everyone, this is the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. Well, here it is Seekh Kebab time. Yes, I'm making Mutton Seekh Kebabs. I've taken mutton mince here. I'm just massaging the mutton mince a little to make the Seekh Kebab. Well, kebabs are available world over. Anywhere on the streets, you see charcoal, fiery charcoal burning, and there you have some kebabs grilling over them. But today, I'm making the same kebabs without charcoal. I'm doing that on a pan. So the first thing that goes in the massaged meat is some papaya paste, because papaya is also a tenderizer. So I've taken some green papaya, which is the raw papaya, that goes right here, followed by some garlic paste, some ginger paste, green chili paste, garam masala powder, red chili powder, dried kasuri methi or fenugreek leaves, and last but not the least, salt. We have to massage this for a minimum of 5 to 6 minutes so that all the masalas nicely and evenly mixed with the meat. In the meanwhile, I'm heating a pan. Now here is a very simple trick to make a Seekh Kebab. Well, take a little bit of this mixture in your hand. Just massage it so that it becomes like a long cylinder. And once the cylinder is made, that is the time when you take a bamboo skewer and you press it right through and through. Right? And this is where you then start massaging it on top of the bamboo skewer. Similarly, I'm going to start making the others. Kebabs are ready, so is the pan. Now let's start cooking them. Oil goes in the pan. I'm placing these kebabs in the hot pan. It's roughly been a minute. I'm turning this. I'm going to cook this for another 1 minute on the other side as well. The kebabs have been cooking for roughly a minute on each side. Time is now to plate these. For the final plating, I have some sliced onions, some sliced pav or bread of your choice, some fresh mint leaves, a spring onion, and finally some lemon wedges. So here you have Mutton Seekh Kebabs ready at the comfort of your own home kitchens. Wait for what next the Bombay chef gets for you. Butter chicken as a delicacy is possibly one of the most renowned of the Indian cuisine. It's generally served with a roti, naan or a paratha. But here's a recipe that's actually a starter. Confused? Don't be. I'm making a butter chicken tikka. Hey guys, this is the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. Let's make the first marination, for which I'm using mustard oil. Along with this, I'm going to add in some dry spices. To begin with, red chili powder, turmeric powder, and finally garam masala powder. We need to give all of this a good whisk. At this stage, I'm also going to add in some salt as required. And finally to this, the slices of chicken breast as well as the thigh. Well, these are thinly sliced breast and thigh of the chicken, of course boneless. And we need to give all of this a good mix. Well, basically, if you notice, this is nothing but your chicken tikka marination, even otherwise. All that's missing in this is some curds, and we are done. Let's mix this well. And we can keep this aside for as long as we can. Let's move on to the second marination, and that's again very simple. The first thing that goes in is some curds. You can also use hung curd. The choice is absolutely yours. Let's add in a few tablespoons of fresh tomato puree. The next thing that goes in is some cream. For some flavor, I'm adding in vinegar. This is regular white vinegar. To this, for some nice creaminess, let's add in cashew nut paste. This is basic cashew nut paste. Cashew nuts ground along with water to a nice and fine puree. To this, I'm adding in garlic water. Along with this, melted or soft butter. Honey for some sweetness. You could also add in sugar. And finally, for some flavor, I'm adding in kasuri methi. Let's bring all of this together. Let's add in our second marination into the first marination, or the chicken which is marinated already. Let's give this a good mix. And with this, your marinated butter chicken tikka is done and ready. Well, at this stage, if you have a party in the house, you could of course marinate it a day prior, skewer it and keep it in the refrigerator. Let's move on to the next step, and that is skewering this. For this, what I've done is I've pre-soaked some wooden sticks or skewers like so. The whole idea of doing this in advance is so that when this goes on the open flame, it does not tend to burn. We need to pick these strips and skewer these like so. Well, alternately, you could also add in some vegetables like capsicum, onions, tomatoes. That's a personal choice, but I like the flavor of butter chicken tikka to just be there out and prominent. With this, our butter chicken tikka is done and ready. The next step, of course, is to cook this. You can, of course, use an oven, you can use a pan, you can use charcoal, you can use an open grill. Choice is absolutely yours. What I'm using in this case is a grill pan. Let's heat it on high flame and add in some butter as well as oil. Beginning with oil, and along with this, salted butter. Allow the butter to melt, allow the oil to heat, and then let's begin. Let's move the oil and butter around in the entire pan. And let's place the butter chicken tikkas. Let's turn these around carefully and let's grill this on the other side as well. With this, a butter chicken tikka is done and ready. This time you need to surprise your guests, not with butter chicken, instead with butter chicken tikka. And trust me, this goes amazingly well with either a dahi ka kachumbar, a raita, green chutney and sliced onions. You can't always eat good food. Well, sometimes you also have to make good food. When I say good food, I mean kebabs. Well, Mumbai by the day is getting nippier, and when it gets nippier, all we crave for in Mumbai are kebabs. I'm making Gilafi kebabs. Let's begin. Well, Gilafi kebab is usually made with chicken mince. When I say chicken mince, this is mince of breast, which is boneless, and it has to be nice and fine. Well, in case you're getting it done professionally, all you need to take care of is that the mince needs to run at least twice in the machine. Well, if you're doing it in your own home kitchens, you need to run this in a processor till it's nice and fine, right? So the first thing that goes in is the chicken mince. The second thing that follows is the paste of ginger, garlic, and green chili. To make this nice and soft, and that's a secret, rather a trick here, is fresh cream. Well, just a heaped tablespoon, but trust me, that's going to amazingly help in making this kebab nice and soft. Let's add in just a few drops of lemon juice. Do not tend to over acidulate or make it extremely sour, because with sourness, the protein kind of congeals sometimes and it becomes tougher. So remember that in case you need this more sour or more lemony, add a little bit of lemon juice after the kebab is cooked and ready to serve. Let's add in some dry spices, beginning with red chili powder. Well, remember the fact that there's already green chili in the recipe. So in this case, the red chili is the one that gives you good color rather than spice. Let's add in just a touch of garam masala powder. Well, instead of this garam masala, which is a regular Punjabi garam masala, if at all, by any chance, you have some links, some connects in Lucknow, you can go to any pansari. Well, pansaris are kirana shops or grocer stores in Lucknow. You can pick up this spice mix called Lazzat-e-Taam. If you add in a pinch of that instead of the garam masala, trust me, Gilafi kebab is going to be the most wonderful kebab ever, because that spice, trust me, makes a lot of difference. To this, just a touch of chaat masala. Finally, to this, let's add in salt as required. The next step is to mix all of this well together. Like I said, it's very important to get the quality of the mince and the fineness of the mince perfectly correct, because if you notice correctly, there is no binding in this. There's no bread, there's no egg yolk, there's nothing absolutely. And the binding in this case is just the protein in the mince. So remember that, take some time and mince it right. Let's add in another layer of flavor, and that is meetha itr. And that could be optional, but I've learned it from someone who uses this, not generously of course, this is just for that layer of flavor. You can use it, you can avoid it, that's a complete personal choice and discretion. Well, I like using it, you can take your own call. Let's mix all of this well together and keep this aside at least for 10 to 15 minutes. You can refrigerate it, keep it at room temperature. That's a complete personal choice. Next, let's move on to chopping the capsicum, and that's where gilaf, the word, comes in, and that means enveloping or covering. Let's create that, but for that, the first thing is to finely chop bell peppers. We need to mix all of this together and begin with Gilafi kebab. Now there are two things here. If you're doing this in a tandoor, which is more like a vertical cooking apparatus, all you need to do is run this in a muslin cloth, squeeze it so that the moisture kind of comes out. But in case you're using the trick that I'm showing to you today, you do not need to press this and drain out the liquid, it can remain in. The next step is to moisten your hand in cold water and take this kebab mixture and roll this into long cylinders. I'm taking like an orange sized ball of the mince. You may have to keep dipping your palm or your fingers time and again to ensure that it's nice and evenly shaped. Ensure that the sides are not thinner or tapering. The next step is to spread this or roll this like a cover, like I said, like a gilaf or a gilafi. Well, the name comes in from this step. Roll this, get it right, and there you have this most amazing, colorful, glittery kebab ever. Let's keep this aside and let's move on with the same technique, making some more of the Gilafi kebabs. Our Gilafi kebab is shaped and ready. Let's next move on to grilling these. For this, of course, I've taken a grill pan. You can use a tawa, you can do it in a tandoor. That's a complete personal choice. I'm adding in some oil. I'm using a little lesser oil at this stage because I'm also tempted to use salted butter a little later though. Smear this well in the pan and allow this to heat, not till smoking point, till kind of the pan is moderately hot. The pan is hot enough. Let's transfer the Gilafi kebab very gently because trust me, you can hear the sizzle. It's extremely gentle. Well, do not get tempted to turn the kebab time and again because in that case, the bell peppers will all start dropping off. All you need to do is allow the kebab to just settle for a little bit because it's fresh at this point in time. After this, once it gets the basic grill mark, you keep turning it over and cook it for 10 to 12 minutes or till the kebab is perfectly golden brown and the chicken is well cooked. The Gilafi kebab is perfectly cooked. Let's add in some layers of flavor yet again. To this, I'm adding in a little dollop of salted butter because it's going to make it nice and buttery. Along with this, a splash of lemon juice. With this, off goes the flame, and I'm going to add in a generous sprinkling of chaat masala. With this, your Gilafi kebab is done and ready, and this goes straight on the dinner table. Well, next time when you're planning a menu for your parties, get-togethers, or even campings for that matter, remember Gilafi kebab because what's there in this? Simple stuff, simple ingredients, simple recipes, and trust me, lots of happiness. On that note, this is me, the Bombay Chef, signing off. Bye for now. This is one of those kebabs that I actually picked up in one of my travels to Bihar. You don't get it so easily. It's not one of those most popular kebabs, but trust me, it's fabulous. It's known as the Bihari kebab. Well, originally it is made with meat, but today I'm going to make it with chicken so that you can all make it in your homes. Let's begin. Let's begin with the spice paste, for which I'm going to use fried onions. Along with this, raw onion and garlic. I'm going to use ginger. Now this is of course ginger which I had frozen and kept ready, but nevertheless you can have a piece of fresh ginger as well. And like I said, I'm going to add every ingredient in the spice jar. The first one is roasted cumin. Along with that, I'm going to add in roasted coriander seeds. I like crushing and keeping these because I use them regularly, but nevertheless, if you're not doing that, you can roast them fresh and put it to use. Curd. Along with this, garam masala powder, red chili powder, and finally, I'm going to add in mustard oil. Now this oil is what brings in the taste and flavor of this kebab, so do not skip this. It's very important. We've mixed everything in a grinder. The next step is to run this into a fine and smooth paste because that is going to be our marination for the Bihari kebab. So let's do that. With this, our fine and smooth paste is done and ready. Let's transfer this in a bowl. To grind the paste, do not use water or additional liquid because every ingredient that we've used, whether it's the fried onion or the fresh onion, ginger, garlic, or even the mustard oil for that matter, the curd, everything has liquid in some form or another, so no water additionally. The next step is to add chicken. Now I have cut chicken into two different shapes. The first one is cutting this into a square like this. It's literally a slice. So I've used a chicken breast. You cut the chicken breast lengthwise into three, and then at an angle you cut them into thin slices like these. Well, this is how I would encourage all of you to cut. Nevertheless, if you want to really do it like a professional, then you're supposed to cut it into thin strips like these. So this is how you're ideally supposed to do it. But I can understand if you're doing it for the first time, or if you've stepped in the kitchen recently, this could get a little challenging. So this is always better and easier. So let's add in the chicken slices. Let's not forget to add in salt, as much you prefer or you like, and mix this very well. Now you would have seen a lot of recipes of a Bihari kebab which use papaya paste. Papaya paste is a tenderizer that is generally used when you're making a meat kebab. Chicken is anyway tender, so you do not need to add in papaya paste, because if you end up adding papaya paste, your chicken will split up, it will splinter, it will also break down. It will become extremely soft, so soft that it may not even stay well on the barbecue pit. So do not add papaya if you're making chicken or if you're following this recipe. But if you're making meat, then by all means, yes, please add a tablespoon of papaya paste and keep the meat to marinate for at least an hour. The next step is to take wooden skewers like these, and we need to skewer these. Puncture this right in the center like so, and bring it like that. Now this is what makes the Bihari kebab very unique, because this is a style which is not generally followed by any other kebab. Now I'll just show you. If you're taking the individual slices, then this is how you lace it, or this is how you thread it. If you're using a strip, then you begin at one end, and in a zigzag motion you start puncturing it like that. So literally like picking it from here and putting it back here, so like a zigzag, and then you push everything like that. That's how you start building this kebab. And this is one of the main reasons why I requested you to kind of slice them individually, because then it just becomes easier. This is generally a thick kebab. You make a nice thick kebab like that, if you see, and just roll it. So that's how it is supposed to look. But nevertheless, you can make it longer, you can make it shorter, depending on how you or your family prefer. The next step is to take these kebabs individually on a stick like that and just give them scotch marks. One very important step that you need to note at this stage, or rather at the earlier stage, is to soak the wooden skewers or the wooden sticks in water so that they become moist and they don't burn easily. You can continue grilling them like that, but if you're a little worried if you're doing this for the first time, you can take smaller skewers and continue cooking in a pan, or even bake these at 200 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. If you think the kebabs are turning drier, like in this case they're looking just perfect and moist, but in case they turn drier, just brush a little bit of mustard oil. The next step is to bake these in an oven. I'm just adding a little more of mustard oil, and that is only to ensure that the kebabs do not dry out in the oven. And these would be baked at 200 degrees Celsius for 12 to 15 minutes, or till the chicken is perfectly succulent and well done. With this, your chicken Bihari kebab is done and ready. And like I said, I've made it absolutely quick, simple, easy. Make this. If you have a tandoor, use that. If you have an electric tandoor, use that. If you're stuck in your farmhouse or in a village or in an open place, light a pit fire and grill a barbecue. If nothing works, open flame always does the trick. For more such recipes, stay tuned. Well, legend has it that this is a kebab variety that was actually invented or rather made in the kitchen by the rakabdars of a Nawab. Now, this Nawab was not an ordinary Nawab. He was a Nawab which was offended by a British aristocrat. Well, he was invited home for the regular khatirdari and he was served a Seekh kebab. As time may have it, that kebab was not appreciated by the Brit. And what happened after that is a series of experimentation in the kitchen by the rakabdars and the khansamas, and they came up with this finer version of a Seekh kebab called the Kakori kebab on the outskirts of Lucknow. Hey guys, it's the Bombay chef Varun Inamdar and welcome to Get Curried. For the ones who do not know anything about Kakori kebab, well, it's one of the most fantastic and one of my most favorite kebabs. I'm going to divide this recipe actually into three parts. The first one, of course, is the quality of the meat, for which I'll of course come a little later. I'll explain that in detail. The second one is actually the spice mix, which is also very important. And the third and the most important part of this recipe, which is very unusual to this recipe, that is grinding a smooth paste of a lot of browned ingredients. The first one of that is red onions. But before that, let's heat a pan. Let's add in oil. The oil can also be little or more. You can also make onion brista and you can keep it aside and you can grind that into fine paste. But I'm making it right here in front of you. Let the oil heat. And to this, I'm going to add in red onions, which are thinly sliced. To this, I'm adding in a little bit of salt. This just make the caramelization absolutely faster and quicker. This will help in releasing a lot of moisture from the onions, and that way, it'll start browning faster. Simple. Once these start getting borderline golden brown in color, we'll start adding in the rest of the ingredients, beginning, of course, with cashew nuts. Along with this, poppy seeds or khaskhas. And finally, at this stage, I'm also adding in desiccated coconut, which is also kind of one of those rarest ingredients used in North Indian food. Let's mix all of this together. And the next step is to wait for all of this to start caramelizing beautifully. Well, if you're making this in a bulk quantity or in a larger batch, all you need to do is fry all of this separately and then make paste separately and then combine in the proportion required as per the recipe. All of this has beautifully browned. With this, off goes the flame, and this gets transferred so that this starts cooling down to room temperature. Once all of this cools down, the next step is to grind this into an absolute nice and smooth paste. Let's start adding in some spices to this, and these are spices that are generally associated with very sweet aroma. To this, let's add in some mace, some green cardamom, black cardamom, and along with this, cloves and peppercorn. I'm also topping up some royal cumin or shahi jeera, also black cumin. To this, for a flavor, absolutely very important, and that is strands of saffron. And finally to this, I'm adding in raw papaya, which is used as a tenderizer in this recipe, and this is with its skin on. Let's grind this into an absolutely fine and smooth paste because it's an absolute fine and smooth kebab. You need to keep scraping, keep pushing this to the bottom so that the blade makes this into a nice and smooth paste. Well, what's important here is that there's not a single drop of water that needs to be used. In case you feel the need, we'll be adding in rose water. With this, our masala paste is absolutely smooth and ready. Well, the next step is to grind the meat again till it's nice and fine. Well, if you do not wish to do something like this, what you can do is request your butcher to grind this at least 3 to 4 times in, of course, his own grinder. Well, this is goat meat, which goes in the mixer jar for now. And this is a mix of 80 to 20. Well, 80% is meat and 20% here is the fat. Try separating the pieces of meat like that, because with that, the grinding just kind of becomes easier. While in this case, the meat is nice and chilled. That's also mandatory because in the grinding process, the proteins kind of begin to cook, and that's not what you're looking at this stage. Let's start grinding this till it's absolutely smooth. With this, our meat is absolutely ground and ready. And this is how it is supposed to look at this stage. It's sticky, it's slimy, it's also got a lot of fat, and that's exactly what you're looking at. For now, let's transfer this in a mixing bowl. And along with this, I'm also adding in the ground spice. The next is, of course, desi ghee, and this needs to be almost emulsified into the meat. Finally, another very important flavor of this recipe, and that is fresh nutmeg. To this, lastly, salt as required, remembering the fact that salt has already been added in the recipe while frying the onions. Let's mix all of this together, and with this, your Kakori Kebab mixture is done and ready. Well, one of the tenderizers then was, of course, a Malayabali mango. Now, that's a mango which is used as a tenderizer in the original recipe. Years later, raw papaya started being used. There's also a version that I have learned from one of the khansamas in Lucknow that uses kachri as an ingredient. Well, between these 3 ingredients, whichever you can lay your hands on, use that as a tenderizer. Our Kakori Kebab mix is done and ready. The next step, of course, is to light a pan. Well, a Kakori Kebab generally is always made in a tandoor because it's nice and leathery on the outside and it's nice and absolutely soft and succulent within. It's absolutely dry with these scotch marks on top, and that is best made in a tandoor. But of course, everyone does not have the luxury of having a tandoor, so this one is the trick for you. The next is to heat oil or ghee in a pan. Roll these cylinders, of course, and place them and fry them till they're crisp and golden brown. But coming back to basics, the first step is to wet your palms completely. And the next step is to roll this into a long cylinder, of course, in the desired size. These are fried just perfectly and they're nice, beautiful and succulent within. Let's lift this gently, and you'll need a lot of support for something like this. Let's move on to making some more. Well, Kakori Kebab, like I said, is an absolutely finer and smoother texture
of a regular Sikh kebab? Well, there are two basic kebabs which are absolutely soft and decadent. The first one is a Galouti Kebab, which was for the toothless Nawab. And here is the Kakori Kebab, which is for the offended Nawab. Absolutely fantastic, fine, smooth, pasty, and absolutely flavorful. With this, your absolutely juicy, succulent Kakori Kebab is done and ready. Well, this goes amazingly well, of course, with naan and roti, but best served with Rumali roti. And for more such stunning recipes, stay tuned.